The summer sun beat down on the quiet streets of Charleston, South Carolina. It was 3 in the afternoon, and the heat made the air thick and heavy. Most people were inside their homes, hiding from the brutal temperature. The neighborhood was peaceful, with neat houses lining both sides of the street. Trees provided some shade and a few birds sang in the branches. Marcus Thompson gripped his steering wheel tightly. He was 17 years old and had only gotten his driver's license 3 months ago. He was driving his mother's old Honda Civic, being extra careful at every turn. His mother had trusted him to pick up groceries, and he did not want to mess up. He approached a stop sign at the corner of Maple Street and came to a complete stop. He looked left, then right, then left again, just like his driving instructor had taught him. The road was clear, so he pressed the gas pedal gently and moved forward. Behind him, a police car suddenly turned on its lights. The red and blue flashes reflected in Marcus's rearview mirror. His heart jumped into his throat. What had he done wrong? He checked his speed. He was going 25 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone. His seatbelt was on. His registration was current. He could not think of any reason for being pulled over. Marcus put on his turn signal and carefully pulled to the side of the road. His hands were shaking. He had heard stories from his older brother about traffic stops. His mother had given him the talk about what to do if police ever stopped him. Keep your hands on the wheel, be polite. Do not make sudden movements. Do everything they say. The police car parked behind him. Marcus could see the officer getting out in his side mirror. The officer was a white man, tall and heavy, probably in his 40s. He wore sunglasses even though the sun was behind clouds now. His hand rested on his belt as he walked toward Marcus's car. His face showed no expression. Marcus rolled down his window. His mouth felt dry. The officer stood next to the car and looked down at him. License and registration, the officer said. His voice was flat and cold. Yes, sir, Marcus replied. His voice came out smaller than he wanted. Can I ask why you pulled me over? I will ask the questions, the officer snapped. License and registration, now. Marcus reached for the glove compartment slowly. His hands were still shaking. He pulled out the registration papers and handed them over with his license. The officer took them without saying thank you. He looked at the license for a long time, then looked at Marcus, then back at the license. This your car? The officer asked. No, sir. It is my mother's car. I am just running errands for her. Where are you coming from? The grocery store, sir. I was picking up some things for dinner. Where are the groceries? Marcus felt confused. In the back seat, sir. The officer bent down and looked into the back seat. There were 2 bags of groceries sitting there. He straightened up and frowned. Step out of the vehicle, the officer ordered. Sir, can I ask what I did wrong? Marcus asked. His voice was shaking now, just like his hands. I said step out of the vehicle. The officer's voice was louder now, angry. Do not make me repeat myself again. Marcus's eyes went wide. He did not understand what was happening. He had done everything right. He had stopped at the stop sign. He was not speeding. He had his license and registration. Why was the officer so angry? About 50 feet away, James Park was finishing his afternoon run. He was 45 years old and made this run every day after work. He wore a simple gray t-shirt and black running shorts. Sweat covered his face and arms. His dark hair was cut short and neat. He was Korean American and had lived in this neighborhood for 8 years. James ran past the traffic stop and something made him slow down. He could hear the officer's angry voice. He could see a young black teenager in the driver's seat looking scared. James had been in the military for over 20 years. He knew what fear looked like. He also knew what unnecessary aggression looked like. He stopped running and walked closer, staying on the sidewalk. He wanted to see what was happening. The officer was now ordering the young man to get out of the car. The teenager was moving slowly, carefully, like he was afraid any quick movement would cause trouble. Is everything okay here? James called out. He kept his voice calm and friendly. He was still about 30 feet away, not trying to interfere, just concerned. The officer's head snapped toward him. This does not concern you. Keep moving. I am just making sure everything is all right, James said. He took a few steps closer, but kept his hands visible at his sides. I live in this neighborhood. Just want to make sure everyone is safe. I said this does not concern you, the officer shouted. His face was turning red now. Move along before I arrest you for interference. James stopped walking but did not leave. I am not interfering, officer. I am just standing here on a public sidewalk. That is my right. The young man was now standing next to his car, his hands raised slightly. He looked terrified. James could see tears forming in the corner of the teenager's eyes. Whatever was happening here was not right. "Officer, can I ask what violation occurred?" James asked politely. "I saw the young man stop at the stop sign. He seemed to be driving correctly." "Who the hell do you think you are?" the officer demanded. He took several steps toward James, leaving the teenager by the car. "Are you a lawyer? Are you a cop?" "No, sir. I am just a concerned citizen." "Then mind your own damn business and get out of here." A woman came out of a house across the street. She was elderly, with white hair and glasses. She stood on her porch and watched. Then another person emerged from a different house, a middle-aged man with his phone held up recording. The officer noticed the people watching. His jaw clenched. "All of you, get back inside. There is nothing to see here." Nobody moved. More people started coming out. An older black couple from 2 houses down, a young white woman with a baby on her hip. They all stood in their yards or on their porches watching. James stayed calm. He knew this situation could get dangerous quickly, but he also knew he could not walk away. This teenager needed someone to witness what was happening. Too many young black men had bad encounters with police when nobody was watching. "Officer, I can see your name tag says Walsh," James said quietly. "Officer Walsh, I would just like your badge number, please. For my records." That was the wrong thing to say. Officer Walsh's face went from red to purple. He pointed his finger at James like a weapon. "You want my badge number? You want my badge number?" Walsh's voice was rising with each word. "How about I give you handcuffs instead? How about I arrest you right now for obstruction?" "I do not believe I am obstructing anything," James replied, still calm. "I am standing on a public sidewalk more than 30 feet away from your traffic stop. I have not touched anyone or anything. I'm simply observing." Walsh grabbed his radio from his shoulder. "Dispatch, this is Unit 12. I need backup at Maple and Birch. I have a hostile suspect interfering with a traffic stop. Possible arrest situation." James's eyebrows went up. Hostile suspect? He had not raised his voice once. He had not moved aggressively. He was just standing there. But he understood what was happening now. Officer Walsh was trying to intimidate him, or trying to scare him away. It was not going to work. James had faced enemy fire in 2 different countries. He had led soldiers through dangerous missions. A bully with a badge did not scare him, but he was worried about the teenager. Marcus was still standing by his car, frozen in place, not knowing what to do. His whole body was tense like a wire about to snap. James made eye contact with him and gave a small nod, trying to show him it would be okay. The sound of another siren filled the air. Backup was coming. James took a deep breath and prepared himself for what would happen next. This traffic stop was about to get a lot more complicated. A second police car pulled up behind the first one. The new officer got out quickly. He was Asian American, younger than Walsh, probably in his early 30s. His name tag read Chen. He looked at the scene with sharp, alert eyes. He saw Walsh standing close to James, saw Marcus frozen by his car, saw all the neighbors watching and recording. Officer Chen walked toward them with a professional stride. He did not look angry or aggressive. He looked like someone trying to understand a situation. "What do we have here, Walsh?" Chen asked. Walsh pointed at James. "This guy is interfering with my traffic stop. He refuses to leave when ordered. I want him arrested for obstruction." Chen looked at James, who was still standing calmly on the sidewalk. He looked at the distance between James and Marcus's car. He looked at James's posture, his visible hands, his relaxed stance. Chen had been trained to read body language. Nothing about James suggested hostility or threat. "Sir, can you tell me what is happening from your perspective?" Chen asked James politely. "I was jogging past and stopped to observe the traffic stop," James explained. "I became concerned when I heard the officer yelling at the young man. I asked if everything was okay. The officer told me to leave, but I chose to stay on the public sidewalk to observe. I have not interfered with the stop in any way. He is interfering just by being here," Walsh interrupted. "He is trying to intimidate me and prevent me from doing my job." Chen held up a hand. "Let me handle this, Walsh." He turned back to James. "Sir, while you have the right to observe, the officer does have discretion in managing the scene. Would you be willing to step back a bit further?" "I am happy to step back," James said, "but I would like to stay where I can see what happens. I want to make sure this young man is treated fairly." Walsh exploded. Treated fairly? What the hell does that mean? Are you saying I am not being fair? Are you accusing me of something? I am not accusing you of anything, James said quietly. I'm simply concerned. The young man seems frightened, and I have not seen any clear reason for this traffic stop to escalate the way it has. You do not get to decide how my traffic stops go, Walsh shouted. He moved closer to James, getting into his personal space. This is my jurisdiction, my streets, and you do not belong here. James did not back away. He stayed perfectly still. I live 2 streets from here. I have lived in this neighborhood for 8 years. I belong here as much as anyone. Yeah? Well, you sure do not look like you belong in this neighborhood, Walsh sneered. His voice took on a nasty tone. What are you anyway? Chinese? Japanese? You probably do not even have papers. You are probably illegal. The words hung in the air like poison. Several of the watching neighbors gasped. The young woman with the baby shook her head in disgust. The man recording on his phone moved closer to make sure he captured the audio clearly. Chen's eyes went wide. Walsh, that is completely inappropriate. I will tell you what is inappropriate, Walsh cut him off. What is inappropriate is foreigners coming into our neighborhoods and telling us how to do our jobs. This is America. If he does not like how we do things here, he can go back where he came from. James felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept it controlled. He had dealt with racism before many times, in the military, in stores, on the street. He knew how to handle it without losing his cool. But it still hurt. It always hurt. Officer Walsh, James said, his voice steady but firm. I am an American citizen. I was born in Los Angeles, California. I have every right to be here, and I have every right to observe this traffic stop. You have the right to follow my orders. Walsh shot back. And I am ordering you to leave right now or I will arrest you. I do not care if you are a citizen or not. You are interfering and you are being hostile. Chen stepped between them. Walsh, we need to calm this situation down. Let me talk to you for a minute. He tried to pull Walsh aside, but Walsh shrugged him off. I do not need to calm down. This is my stop and I am in control here. Walsh was nearly screaming now. An older white woman walked across the street. She was about 70 years old, wearing a gardening apron. She walked right up to the officers without hesitation. Excuse me, she said in a strong, clear voice. I am Eleanor Thompson. I have lived on this street for 42 years. This man, she pointed at James, is Colonel James Park. He lives 2 streets over on Oak Avenue. He has been a wonderful neighbor for 8 years. His wife is a surgeon at Charleston Memorial Hospital. His 2 children go to Lincoln Elementary School. He is well known and well respected in this community. Walsh turned his glare on her. Ma'am, you need to go back to your house. This is police business. This is my community, Mrs. Thompson said firmly, and I have a right to speak up when I see someone being treated poorly. This young man, she gestured to Marcus, was driving perfectly safely. I was sitting on my porch and saw the whole thing. He stopped completely at that stop sign. There was no reason to pull him over. I will determine if there was a reason, Walsh said through gritted teeth. Now get back in your house before I arrest you too. You will not intimidate me, young man, Mrs. Thompson replied. I have been standing up to bullies since before you were born. More neighbors were gathering now. The crowd had grown to about 15 people. Most had their phones out recording. Some were taking pictures. Others were just watching with concerned faces. Chen pulled out his own phone and made a quick call, speaking quietly into it. James could not hear what he was saying, but he saw Chen's worried expression. Marcus was still standing by his car. He had not moved in several minutes. Tears were rolling down his cheeks now. His whole body was shaking. He looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. James caught his eye again. Marcus, he called out gently. He had seen the name on the license that Walsh was still holding. Marcus, look at me. You are going to be okay. Just stay calm. Keep your hands where they can see them. Do not make any sudden moves. You are doing everything right. Do not talk to my suspect, Walsh barked. He is not a suspect of anything, James said. He is a teenager who got pulled over for no clear reason and is now terrified because you are screaming at everyone. Walsh's face was purple again. He grabbed his handcuffs from his belt. That is it. I am done with this. Turn around. You are under arrest. On what charge? James asked calmly. Obstruction of justice. Interference with a police officer. Disorderly conduct. Take your pick. Chen stepped forward quickly. Walsh, do not do this. We need to talk. Right now, I do not need to talk. I need to do my job. Your job is not to arrest people for standing on sidewalks, Chen said firmly. He was using his authority now, not asking any more. We need to step aside and discuss this situation before it gets worse. Walsh looked around at all the cameras pointed at him. He seemed to realize for the first time that everything he had said and done was being recorded. His expression changed slightly from pure anger to something else. Maybe concern, maybe fear. Fine, he muttered. He turned to James. Do not move. I am not done with you. Chen pulled Walsh several feet away. They had a hushed, intense conversation. James could see Chen gesturing, talking quickly. Walsh kept shaking his head, his arms crossed over his chest like a stubborn child. Mrs. Thompson walked over to James. Are you all right, dear? I am fine, Mrs. Thompson. Thank you for speaking up. That officer is a disgrace, she said quietly. I have seen him in the neighborhood before. He is always too aggressive, always looking for trouble where there is none. Have you filed complaints? James asked. 3 times, she said. Nothing ever happens. They say they will investigate, but nothing changes. James nodded slowly. He understood. The system protected its own. But maybe this time would be different. This time there were witnesses, recordings, evidence. Chen walked back over. Walsh stayed where he was, glaring at everyone. Sir, I would like to see some identification from you, Chen said to James. His tone was respectful, professional, just to document who was present at the scene. Of course, James said. He reached slowly for his pocket. I am reaching for my wallet now. I can see that. Go ahead. James pulled out his wallet and opened it. Inside was his driver's license and his military identification card. He pulled out both and handed them to Chen. Chen looked at the driver's license first. Then he looked at the military ID. His eyes widened. He looked up at James, then back down at the ID card, then up at James again. The military ID clearly showed James's rank. Colonel, United States Army. Chen's whole posture changed. Sir, I apologize for the situation. Walsh, Chen called out, his voice sharp. Come here now. Walsh walked over slowly, still looking angry. Chen held up the military ID so Walsh could see it. This is Colonel James Park, Chen said quietly. United States Army. Walsh looked at the ID, his face went pale. Then red, then pale again. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. Walsh grabbed the military ID from Chen's hand and stared at it. His eyes scanned every detail. The photo matched James perfectly. The rank was printed clearly, Colonel. The seal of the United States Army was embossed on the plastic. The expiration date showed it was current. This has to be fake, Walsh said. But his voice was not as confident as before. Anyone can make fake IDs these days. You can buy them online. Chen took the ID back and examined it more carefully. He had been in the military himself before joining the police force. He knew what a real military ID looked like. He checked the holographic features, the microprinting, the UV elements. Everything was authentic. This is real, Walsh, Chen said firmly. This is a genuine military identification card. So what? Walsh said. But he was backing up now, putting distance between himself and James. Just because he is in the military does not mean he can interfere with my traffic stop. Military does not have authority over civilian police. You are absolutely right, James said calmly. I never claimed to have authority over you. I never said I was trying to use my rank. I only said I was a concerned citizen observing a traffic stop. Which is my right as an American military or not? Walsh's jaw clenched. He looked trapped like an animal in a corner. You should have identified yourself. You should have told me you were a colonel. Why? James asked. Would it have changed how you treated me? Would you have been less aggressive if you knew my rank? Should not all citizens be treated with the same respect, regardless of whether they are military or not? Walsh did not answer. He could not answer, because they all knew the truth. He would have acted differently if he had known. And that was exactly the problem. Mrs. Thompson spoke up again. Officer, this young man in the car has been standing there terrified for 15 minutes now. What exactly did he do wrong? Walsh seemed to remember Marcus suddenly. He turned back to the teenager who was still frozen by his car, tears drying on his face. He ran a stop sign, Walsh said, but it sounded weak even to him. I did not, Marcus said, finding his voice for the first time. I stopped completely. I looked both ways. I waited, then I went. I did everything right. I saw the whole thing, Mrs. Thompson added. He stopped. There is no question about it. I have other witnesses too, James said. He gestured to the crowd that had gathered. Multiple people were outside. Multiple people saw what happened. Are you going to claim all of us are lying? Chen pulled Walsh aside again. This time they walked all the way back to Walsh's patrol car. James could see them having another heated discussion. Chen was pointing at his own chest, then at Walsh, then at the crowd. Walsh kept shaking his head, but he looked defeated now. Scared even. James walked over to Marcus slowly, keeping his hands visible. Marcus, is it okay if I come closer? Marcus nodded quickly. Yes, sir, please. James approached and spoke quietly. Are you okay? Did he hurt you? No, sir. He just scared me really bad. I did not do anything wrong. I promise I did not. I know you did not, James said gently. I saw you stop at that sign. You did everything correctly. This is not your fault. Why did he pull me over then? Marcus asked. His voice cracked with emotion. Why is he so angry at me? James did not want to say it, but Marcus deserved the truth. Sometimes people in power abuse that power. Sometimes they target people who look different from them. It is wrong, but it happens. Because I am black, Marcus said. It was not a question. He already knew. Maybe, James admitted. I cannot read his mind. But his behavior suggests bias, yes. Marcus wiped his eyes. My mom warned me this could happen. My brother told me stories. But I thought if I just followed all the rules, if I was polite and did everything right, I would be okay. You did do everything right, James assured him. This is on him, not on you. And you have witnesses now. You have people who saw what happened. That matters. A new vehicle pulled up. It was not a police car this time. It was an unmarked SUV. A woman got out wearing a sergeant's uniform. She was Hispanic, probably in her 40s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense expression. Her name tag read Rodriguez. She surveyed the scene quickly. The crowd of neighbors. The phones recording. Walsh and Chen by the patrol car. James standing with Marcus. She walked directly to Chen and Walsh. James could not hear their conversation, but he could see Rodriguez's face getting more and more serious as Chen explained. She looked at James, then at Marcus, then at Walsh. Her expression darkened. After a few minutes, Rodriguez walked over to James. Sir, I am Sergeant Rodriguez. I apologize for this situation. I understand you are Colonel Park from Fort Jackson? Yes, Sergeant. I am stationed at Fort Jackson, though I live off base in this neighborhood. I recognize your name, sir. You run the community outreach program at the base, correct? I do, Rodriguez nodded. My son participated in your summer program last year. He loved it. Learned a lot about leadership and service, she paused, which makes this situation even more embarrassing for the department. You should not have been treated this way. No one should be treated this way. I appreciate that, Sergeant, but I am more concerned about Marcus here. He is the one who was pulled over for no valid reason. Rodriguez turned to Marcus. Son, can you tell me what happened from the beginning? Marcus explained everything. How he stopped at the stop sign. How the officer pulled him over. How he asked what he did wrong and the officer got angry. How he was ordered out of the car and has been standing here ever since. His voice shook as he talked, but he got through it all. Rodriguez listened carefully. When Marcus finished, she asked, Did Officer Walsh give you a reason for the stop? No, ma'am. He just said to give him my license and registration. When I asked why, he got mad. Rodriguez turned to Walsh, who had followed her over. Officer Walsh, what was the reason for this traffic stop? Walsh hesitated. There was a traffic violation. What violation specifically? Failure to stop at a stop sign. Multiple witnesses say he did stop. What is your response to that? Walsh's face reddened again. They are lying. They are covering for him. All of them? Rodriguez asked. 15 different people, including a retired school teacher who has lived here for 40 years, are all lying. Walsh crossed his arms. I know what I saw, Rodriguez sighed. Do you have dash cam footage? Walsh's face fell. My camera was not recording. Technical malfunction. How convenient, Rodriguez said dryly. She pulled out her own phone and made a call. I need to see all cell phone footage from this incident, she said to the crowd. Anyone who recorded anything, please email it to this address. She gave out a department email address. Several people nodded and started working on their phones immediately. Rodriguez turned back to Marcus. Son, I am going to let you go. No citation. You are free to drive home. Really? Marcus looked shocked. Yes, there is no evidence of any violation. This stop should never have happened. She looked at Walsh when she said the last part. Marcus looked like he might cry again, but this time from relief. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Drive safely. And I am sorry this happened to you. Marcus got back in his car with shaking hands. He started the engine and pulled away slowly, carefully, like he was taking his driving test again. Everyone watched until he turned the corner and disappeared. Walsh started to protest. You cannot just let him go. I pulled him over for a reason. A reason you cannot articulate, Rodriguez cut him off. A reason that multiple witnesses contradict. A reason your dashcam conveniently did not record. Officer Walsh, get in your vehicle and return to the station now. But that was not a request. That was an order. Return to the station immediately and wait in the briefing room. Do not talk to anyone. Do not leave, just wait. Am I clear? Walsh looked like he wanted to argue more, but something in Rodriguez's expression stopped him. He walked to his patrol car, got in, and drove away. He did not look at James or anyone else as he left. The crowd started to break up. Some people went back to their houses. Others stayed, talking amongst themselves. Mrs. Thompson squeezed James's arm. You did a good thing today, Colonel. That boy needed someone to stand up for him. Anyone would have done the same, James said. No, she said sadly. They would not have. Most people see things like this and do nothing. They are too afraid, or they just do not care. But you stayed. You used your voice. That matters. Chen walked over to James. Sir, I want to apologize again. Walsh was completely out of line. The things he said to you were unacceptable. I have heard worse, James said, but it never stops being hurtful, especially when it comes from someone who is supposed to serve and protect. I know, and I am sorry. Not all officers are like that. I know they are not, but enough are that it is a problem. A serious problem, Chen nodded. I agree. For what it is worth, I will be writing a full report on what I witnessed here today. Walsh's behavior was unprofessional and potentially criminal. Thank you, Officer Chen. That means a lot. Rodriguez joined them. Colonel Park, I want you to know that this incident will be fully investigated. Officer Walsh has had complaints before, but they were never pursued properly. That ends now. What happened here today with all these witnesses and recordings cannot be ignored. What happens next? James asked. Internal Affairs will review everything. The recordings, the witness statements, Walsh's history. It will take time, but we will get to the bottom of it. And what about Marcus? What about all the other young people who get pulled over by officers like Walsh when there are no witnesses? No recordings? No colonels to speak up for them? Rodriguez looked down at her feet. That is a harder problem to solve, Colonel. But we are trying. New training programs, body cameras, community oversight. It is slow progress, but it is progress. 3 days later, Officer Derek Walsh sat in a cold, windowless room at the Charleston Police Department headquarters. The chair was uncomfortable, hard plastic that made his back hurt. A table separated him from 2 internal affairs investigators. On the wall behind them was a mirror. Walsh knew people were watching from behind that mirror. The thought made his stomach turn. Chief Martin sat at the head of the table. He was a large black man in his 50s, who had worked his way up from beat cop to chief over 30 years. His face showed no emotion, but his eyes were hard as stones. Walsh had seen that look before, on officers who were about to be fired. Officer Walsh, Chief Martin began, his voice deep and controlled. Do you understand why you are here? Because of the incident on Tuesday, Walsh replied. His throat was dry. But I was just doing my job. That guy was interfering. That guy, Chief Martin interrupted, was Colonel James Park, a decorated Army officer who lives in the community you are supposed to serve. And according to multiple witnesses and video recordings, he was not interfering with anything. One of the internal affairs investigators, a woman named Detective Barnes, opened a laptop and turned it toward Walsh. We are going to watch some footage now. I want you to pay close attention. The video started playing. It was from someone's phone, the angle showing the whole scene clearly. Walsh watched himself pull over Marcus. Watched himself order the kid out of the car with no explanation. Watched Colonel Park approach and politely ask if everything was okay. Then Walsh heard his own voice coming from the laptop speakers. This does not concern you. Keep moving. Walsh watched himself get more aggressive. Watched himself step toward Park. Then came the part that made his blood run cold. His own voice recorded clearly. What are you anyway? Chinese? Japanese? You probably do not even have papers. You are probably illegal. Detective Barnes paused the video. Officer Walsh, did you make those statements? I was stressed. The situation was tense. Did you or did you not make racially discriminatory statements to Colonel Park? Walsh's hands clenched under the table. I might have said something. But he was being difficult. He would not leave when I told him to. He was standing on a public sidewalk, the second investigator, Detective Torres, said. He had every right to be there. And your statements were not just inappropriate, they were racist. Chief Martin leaned forward. Let me make something very clear, Walsh. This department has a zero-tolerance policy for racism. Zero. I do not care if you were stressed. I do not care if you felt disrespected. You do not get to make racial slurs at citizens. They were not slurs. Walsh protested weakly. You told an American-born citizen to go back where he came from, Chief Martin said, his voice rising slightly. You assumed he was illegal based solely on his appearance. How is that not racist? Walsh had no answer. His lawyer sitting next to him put a hand on his arm. My client has a right to due process, and he will get it, Barnes said. But due process does not mean ignoring clear evidence. She played another video. This one showed Walsh grabbing his handcuffs and threatening to arrest Park. It showed Mrs. Thompson coming out and defending Park. It showed Walsh telling her to get back in her house or be arrested. You threatened to arrest a 70-year-old woman for speaking up, Torres noted. A woman who has lived in that neighborhood for 42 years and is a respected member of the community. She was interfering. No one was interfering. Chief Martin slammed his hand on the table. That is your excuse for everything. But the truth is you lost control of that situation from the start. You pulled over a teenager for no valid reason. Multiple witnesses say he stopped at that sign. Your dash cam conveniently was not working. Can you explain that? It was a technical issue. It is the third time in 6 months your dash cam has had a technical issue, Barnes said, reading from a file. Always during controversial stops. That seems suspicious. Walsh's lawyer spoke up. Unless you have proof that my client deliberately disabled his camera, we are looking into that, Torres said. Our tech team is examining the equipment now. Barnes pulled out another file, this one much thicker. Officer Walsh, this is not your first complaint. In the past 3 years, you have had 17 complaints filed against you. 12 of those complaints came from Black or Hispanic citizens. 8 involved allegations of racial profiling. 4 involved excessive use of force. None of those complaints were sustained, Walsh argued. They were all investigated and dismissed. Investigated poorly, Chief Martin said. I have reviewed those cases myself over the past 3 days. The investigations were sloppy. Witnesses were not interviewed properly. Evidence was not collected. Some complaints were dismissed without any investigation at all. He opened one of the files. Here is one from last year. A 22-year-old black man complained that you pulled him over, searched his car without cause, and made racial comments. The investigating officer spoke to you, accepted your word that the search was consensual, and closed the case. The complainant was never interviewed again. He consented to the search, Walsh insisted. Did he? Or did he feel he had no choice because you were aggressive and intimidating? Chief Martin closed the file with a sharp snap. Here's another one. Hispanic family complained that you pulled them over and demanded to see their papers. The father is a third-generation American, born in Texas, served in the Navy, but you assumed they were illegal immigrants. I have to check immigration status. It is part of my job. No, it is not. Chief Martin's voice boomed through the room. You are a police officer, not Border Patrol. You have no authority to demand immigration papers unless you have specific, articulable reasons to believe a crime related to immigration has been committed. You cannot just demand papers from anyone who looks Hispanic. Walsh slumped in his chair. He could see where this was going. Barnes continued. After Tuesday's incident went viral online, we started receiving more complaints. People who never filed formal reports are coming forward now. We have 8 new complaints from just the past 3 days. People are lying because they saw the video, Walsh said desperately. They are jumping on the bandwagon. Some of these complaints came with their own video evidence, Torres said. Cell phone footage that these people kept but never reported because they did not think anyone would believe them. Now they feel like someone will finally listen. He pulled out his phone and played a video. It showed Walsh pulling over a car in a mostly black neighborhood. The audio caught Walsh making a comment about how the driver probably stole the nice car he was driving. The driver turned out to be a dentist who owned the vehicle outright. That video is from 6 months ago, Torres said. We never knew about it until now. Barnes showed another video. This one is from 8 months ago. You can hear yourself saying the neighborhood is full of criminals and drug dealers. The neighborhood in question has one of the lowest crime rates in the city. Chief Martin closed his eyes briefly, like he was in pain. Walsh, do you understand what you have done? You have not just damaged your own career, you have damaged this entire department. We are supposed to build trust with the community. You have destroyed it. I was trying to keep people safe by harassing them, by profiling them, by treating citizens like criminals based on their skin color. Chief Martin shook his head. That is not keeping anyone safe. That is creating danger. Walsh's lawyer tried to speak again, but Chief Martin held up a hand. Let me finish. Officer Walsh, your actions on Tuesday were bad enough. But the pattern we have uncovered is even worse. You have been targeting minority communities for years. You have been aggressive, discriminatory, and dishonest. He pulled out a document and slid it across the table. This is from Fort Jackson. General Sarah Mitchell herself called me. She wants to know why one of her officers was harassed and threatened by one of my officers. Colonel Park is not just any soldier. He has 2 Bronze Stars and a Purple Heart. He has served this country with honor for over 20 years. He runs a community program that helps at-risk youth, and you treated him like garbage. Walsh felt sick. A general had called about him. This was worse than he thought. Colonel Park, by the way, has not filed any formal complaint, Chief Martin continued. He said he does not want to make this about himself. He is worried about Marcus Thompson and all the other young people who might encounter officers like you. That is the kind of man he is. More concerned about others than about his own mistreatment. Barnes leaned forward. But Marcus's mother did file a complaint, and she has hired a lawyer. She is considering a civil rights lawsuit against you and the department. The city attorney is very concerned, Torres added. This could cost the city millions in a settlement. Walsh's head was spinning. A lawsuit, a general calling. Videos everywhere online. His career was over, he knew it. They all knew it. Chief Martin stood up. Officer Walsh, as of this moment, you are suspended without pay pending the outcome of this investigation. You will surrender your badge and weapon. You will not have any contact with witnesses or other officers involved in this case. Do you understand? Yes, sir, Walsh whispered. The investigation will take several weeks, but I can tell you right now the evidence is overwhelming. You violated department policy. You violated citizen civil rights. You brought disgrace to this department. I fully expect the recommendation will be termination. Walsh's lawyer started to object, but Walsh stopped him. What was the point? The videos did not lie. The witnesses did not lie. He had done this to himself. One more thing, Chief Martin said as Walsh stood to leave. You should know that we are not just investigating you. We are investigating everyone who dismissed complaints against you, every supervisor who looked the other way, every officer who saw your behavior and said nothing. This department is going to change starting now. Walsh walked out of the room in a daze. He handed over his badge and gun to the desk sergeant. The sergeant would not look at him. Word had spread. Everyone knew. Everyone was disgusted. 2 weeks after the suspension, Walsh walked out of the police station for what he knew would be the last time. His termination had been made official that morning. The investigation found him guilty of racial profiling, harassment, making discriminatory statements, abuse of authority, and filing false reports. The decision was unanimous. Even his union representative told him he had no grounds for appeal. Outside the station, news crews waited. They had been camped there all morning, hoping to catch him. Walsh pulled his jacket collar up and walked quickly toward his car, but the reporters swarmed him like bees. Officer Walsh, do you have any comment on your termination? Do you accept responsibility for your actions? Do you have anything to say to Colonel Park and Marcus Thompson? Walsh pushed through them without speaking. He got into his car and drove away, hands gripping the wheel so tight his knuckles turned white. He could see the news van following him. They would probably film his house and interview his neighbors. His life was over. Meanwhile, across town, preparations were underway for a community meeting. The meeting had been organized by local residents after the incident with Walsh went viral. People wanted answers. They wanted to know what the police department planned to do to prevent this from happening again. The meeting was scheduled for 7 in the evening at Mount Zion Baptist Church, a large church in the historically black neighborhood where Marcus lived. The church had a big hall that could hold 300 people. By 6:30, every seat was full, and people were standing along the walls. Marcus sat in the front row with his mother, Angela Thompson. She held his hand tightly. Marcus had not been sleeping well since the traffic stop. He kept having nightmares about police sirens and angry voices. His mother had taken him to a counselor, who said Marcus was experiencing trauma. The counselor explained that what happened to him was serious, and it was normal to feel scared and anxious. Sitting a few rows behind them was Colonel James Park with his wife, Dr. Sujin Park. She was still wearing her hospital scrubs, having come straight from a 12-hour shift. She squeezed her husband's hand. "Are you sure you want to be here?" she asked quietly. "You do not have to put yourself in the spotlight." "I do not want attention," James replied. "But if my presence helps make change happen, then I need to be here." Chief Martin arrived with Sergeant Rodriguez, who had recently been promoted to lieutenant. They walked to the front of the room where a small stage and microphone were set up. The room fell quiet. Chief Martin stepped up to the microphone. He looked uncomfortable, like a man who knew he was about to face justified anger. "Good evening," he began. "Thank you all for coming tonight. I know many of you are angry. You have every right to be. What happened to Marcus Thompson should never have happened. What happened to Colonel Park should never have happened. And I am here tonight to tell you what we are doing about it." He paused, looking around the room. "First, I want to address the specific incident from 2 weeks ago. Officer Derek Walsh has been terminated from the Charleston Police Department. He will never wear a badge in this city again." Some people clapped. Others remained silent, waiting to hear more. "But terminating one officer is not enough," Chief Martin continued. "The investigation revealed that Officer Walsh had a pattern of discriminatory behavior going back years. Complaints were filed, but they were not properly investigated. That is on me. That is on the supervisors who looked the other way. That is on a system that protected bad officers instead of protecting the community." He took a deep breath. "I have been chief of this department for 5 years. I thought I was making progress. I thought things were getting better. But this incident showed me that I was wrong. We have deep problems in this department, and we need to fix them." A woman stood up from the middle of the room. She was in her 50s, well-dressed, with a powerful voice. "Chief Martin, I appreciate your words, but words are not enough. My son was harassed by Officer Walsh 2 years ago. I filed a complaint. Nothing happened. How do we know anything will be different this time?" "That is a fair question, Mrs. Jackson," Chief Martin said. He clearly knew her. "And I do not have a perfect answer. But I can tell you what we are doing." "Lieutenant Rodriguez, can you please explain?" Rodriguez stepped up to the microphone. "Thank you, Chief. We have implemented several new policies in the past 2 weeks. First, all officers are now required to have their body cameras on during every interaction with the public. Not most interactions. Every interaction. Officers who turn off their cameras or claim technical problems will face immediate suspension pending investigation." She continued. "Second, we are creating a civilian oversight board. This board will be made up of community members, not police employees. They will have the power to review complaints, examine evidence, and make recommendations for discipline. The board will have real authority, not just advisory power." An older man stood up. "Who will be on this board? Will you handpick people who will go easy on officers?" "No, sir," Rodriguez replied. "Board members will be selected through a community nomination and voting process. We want people who represent all parts of Charleston, especially communities that have been most affected by biased policing." Chief Martin took the microphone back. "Third, we are completely overhauling our training. Every officer will go through new training on implicit bias, de-escalation, and community relations. This is not optional. This is mandatory. Officers who fail the training will not be allowed to work the streets. Fourth," he continued, "we are reopening every complaint filed against Officer Walsh, every single one, and we are going to investigate them properly this time. If we find evidence of civil rights violations, we will refer those cases to the FBI and the Department of Justice." A younger woman near the back stood up. "What about the supervisors who ignored those complaints? Are they being held accountable too?" Chief Martin's face hardened. "Yes, 3 supervisors have been demoted. 2 have been suspended. We are reviewing their entire history to see if there are other cases they mishandled. If there are, they will face further discipline up to and including termination. The room buzzed with conversation. People seemed surprised that the department was taking such strong action. Mrs. Thompson stood up. She was the elderly white woman who had defended James during the traffic stop. Everyone in the neighborhood knew her. "Chief Martin, I have lived in Charleston my whole life. I have seen a lot of promises from police over the years. Very few of them were kept. How do we know you will keep these promises?" "Mrs. Thompson, I cannot give you absolute certainty," Chief Martin admitted. "All I can do is commit to transparency. We will publish quarterly reports on complaints, investigations, and outcomes. The public will be able to see exactly what we are doing, and the Civilian Oversight Board will have access to everything. If we are not living up to our commitments, they will call us out." A man in his 30s stood up. "What about Officer Chen? He seemed like a good cop during the incident. Are there more officers like him?" Rodriguez answered this one. "Officer Chen has been commended for his professional handling of a difficult situation. He immediately recognized that something was wrong and took steps to de-escalate. Yes, there are many good officers in this department, officers who serve with integrity and respect. But we cannot let the good officers be an excuse for tolerating bad ones." James had been sitting quietly, hoping to avoid attention. But Chief Martin looked directly at him. "Colonel Park, would you be willing to share your perspective? You do not have to, but I think people would value hearing from you." James hesitated. His wife gave him an encouraging nod. He stood up slowly and walked to the microphone. "I did not plan to speak tonight," James began. His voice was calm but firm. "I am not comfortable with attention, but I think there are some things that need to be said." He looked around the room. "I have served in the United States Army for 23 years. I have been deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. I have led soldiers in combat. I have been shot at. I have seen the worst that humanity can offer. But on that Tuesday afternoon, standing on a sidewalk in my own neighborhood, I felt genuinely afraid for the first time in years." The room was completely silent now. "Not because Officer Walsh had a gun," James continued. "I have been around guns my whole adult life. I was afraid because I knew that in that moment my rank did not matter. My service did not matter. All Officer Walsh saw was my face, my skin color, and he made assumptions based on that." He paused. "I want to be very clear about something. This is not about me. I am a colonel. I have education. I have resources. I have people who will believe me and support me. But what about Marcus? What about all the young black and brown men who get pulled over when there are no witnesses? No recordings? No colonels to speak up for them?" Angela Thompson wiped tears from her eyes. Marcus stared at James with an expression of gratitude. "Officer Walsh is gone now," James said. "That is good. But he is just one man. The problem is bigger than one bad officer. The problem is a system that allowed him to act that way for years. A system that ignored complaints. A system that protected him instead of protecting the community he was supposed to serve." He looked at Chief Martin. "Chief, you seem sincere about making changes. I appreciate that. But the community has heard promises before. What matters now is action. Real action. Sustained action. Not just for a few weeks while people are paying attention, but for years, for decades." Chief Martin nodded solemnly. "You are right, Colonel, and I commit to that action." James turned back to the audience. "I also want to say something to all the people who came outside that day. Mrs. Thompson and everyone who recorded what was happening, everyone who witnessed and spoke up. Thank you. Your presence made a difference. Marcus got to go home safely because you cared enough to watch." He stepped away from the microphone and returned to his seat. The room erupted in applause. After James sat down, Marcus stood up. His mother tried to gently pull him back to his seat, but he shook his head. He was nervous, his hands trembling slightly, but he walked to the microphone with determination. "My name is Marcus Thompson," he said, his voice quiet at first. "I'm 17 years old. I am a senior at Lincoln High School. I have a 3.8 GPA. I play basketball. I volunteer at the community center on weekends. I have never been in trouble with the law." He gripped the sides of the podium. 2 weeks ago, I got pulled over for the first time in my life. I thought I did something wrong. I kept trying to figure out what mistake I made. But I did not make any mistake. The only thing I did was drive while being black. His voice grew stronger. When Officer Walsh yelled at me, I was terrified. I have seen videos online of traffic stops that went bad. I have heard stories from my friends and family. My brother told me about the time he got stopped and searched for no reason. My cousin told me about being pushed against a car and handcuffed because he fit the description of a suspect. I always hoped it would never happen to me. Angela Thompson was crying now, trying to stay quiet so her son could continue. But when it did happen, I did not know what to do, Marcus said. I was so scared I could barely breathe. I thought if I moved wrong or said the wrong thing, something terrible would happen. And then Colonel Park showed up. He stayed. He made sure people were watching. He probably saved my life, or at least saved me from being arrested for nothing. Marcus looked at James. Thank you, sir. Thank you for caring about someone you did not even know. James nodded, his own eyes glistening. Marcus turned to Chief Martin. Chief, you seem like you want to do better. I believe you. But I also want you to understand what it is like to be young and black in this city. Every time I see a police car now, my heart starts racing. Every time I drive, I am extra careful because I am afraid of being pulled over again. That is not how it should be. I should not be afraid of the people who are supposed to protect me. You are right, Chief Martin said, his voice heavy with emotion. You should not. And I am sorry that our department made you feel that way. Marcus stepped away from the microphone. As he walked back to his seat, people stood up and applauded. Some were crying. Others were nodding in agreement, having experienced similar fear themselves. The meeting continued for another hour. More community members spoke. Some shared their own stories of being profiled or mistreated by police. Others talked about positive interactions they had with good officers and how they wanted more of those experiences. Lieutenant Rodriguez announced that the department would hold monthly community forums where residents could voice concerns and get updates on reform efforts. She also announced the creation of a hotline for reporting officer misconduct, which would be monitored by the new Civilian Oversight Board, not by the police department itself. Chief Martin made one final announcement. I am creating a new position in the department, Community Liaison Officer. This person will be responsible for building relationships between the police and the neighborhoods we serve. They will attend community events, listen to concerns, and work with officers to ensure we are policing in a way that respects everyone. He looked at James. Colonel Park, I know this is presumptuous, but I would like to ask if you would be willing to consult with us on this new program. Your experience with community outreach at Fort Jackson would be invaluable. James looked surprised. Chief, I am honored, but I am not a police officer. I am not sure how much help I could be. That is exactly why we need you, Chief Martin replied. We need outside perspectives. We need people who understand community building, but are not trapped in our police culture. You would not be doing the work for us, but you could guide us, advise us, help us see our blind spots. James looked at his wife, who smiled and nodded. I would be willing to help, James said, but only if the community supports it. This should not be my decision alone. Mrs. Thompson stood up. I support it. Colonel Park has shown he cares about this community. If he is willing to help, we should accept. Others voiced agreement. It seemed unanimous. Then it is settled, Chief Martin said. Thank you, Colonel. The meeting ended around 9:30. People filed out slowly, stopping to talk in small groups. Some approached Marcus to offer support. Others thanked James for his service and his courage. A woman in her 40s approached James as he was leaving. Colonel Park, my name is Dr. Lisa Chen. I am a professor at the College of Charleston. I teach criminal justice and sociology. Would you be willing to speak to my class about what happened? I think my students, many of whom want to be police officers, need to hear your story. I think Marcus would be a better speaker, James said, gesturing to the teenager. Could both of you come? Dr. Chen asked. James looked at Marcus, who nodded shyly. We can do that, James said. Over the next several weeks, word spread about the changes happening in the Charleston Police Department. The Civilian Oversight Board was formed with 7 community members representing different neighborhoods and demographics. They held their first meeting and immediately began reviewing the backlog of complaints against Officer Walsh and other officers. The department's new training program launched. Every officer, from rookies to veterans, went through 40 hours of intensive training on implicit bias, community relations, and de-escalation techniques. Some officers complained, saying they already knew how to do their jobs, but Chief Martin was firm. Complete the training or find a new career. 2 more officers were fired after the oversight board reviewed their complaint histories. One had multiple accusations of excessive force. Another had been caught on camera making racist comments about residents in a predominantly Hispanic neighborhood. The union protested, but Chief Martin stood firm. The community came first. Lieutenant Rodriguez became the public face of the reform efforts. She appeared at community meetings, spoke at schools, and made herself available to residents. She was tough but fair, and people respected her. She made it clear that good officers would be supported, but bad officers would be removed. Officer Chen was promoted to detective. His professional handling of the Walsh incident was recognized as an example of good policing. He began mentoring younger officers, teaching them how to de-escalate conflicts and treat every person with dignity. 6 weeks after the initial incident, James was jogging through his neighborhood again on a Saturday morning. The weather had cooled slightly as fall approached. He wore the same gray t-shirt and black shorts he always wore for his runs. As he ran past the intersection of Maple and Birch, the place where everything happened, he saw Officer Chen conducting a traffic stop. A young Hispanic woman sat in her car while Chen ran her license. James slowed to a walk, watching. Chen was polite and professional. He explained clearly why he had pulled her over: a broken taillight. He checked her information quickly and came back with a warning, not a citation. He explained how to get the taillight fixed and wished her a safe day. The woman smiled, thanked him, and drove away. Chen noticed James watching and waved. James waved back and gave him a thumbs up. This was how it should be: professional, respectful, fair. James continued his jog. As he turned onto Oak Avenue, his own street, he saw Marcus washing his car in his driveway. The teenager looked up and saw James. "Good morning, Colonel Park," Marcus called out, smiling. "Good morning, Marcus. How are you doing?" "Better," Marcus said honestly. "Still get nervous sometimes when I drive. But it is getting easier. My counselor says that is normal." "It is normal," James agreed. "Trauma takes time to heal." "I am speaking at Dr. Chen's class next week," Marcus said. "Are you still coming?" "Absolutely. We are in this together." Marcus smiled wider. "Thank you again. For everything." "You do not need to keep thanking me. You are strong, Marcus. You stood up there at that community meeting and told your truth. That took courage." "I learned from watching you," Marcus said. "You stayed when you could have walked away. That taught me something important." James felt a warmth in his chest. Maybe something good could come from all of this. Maybe Marcus would grow up to be a leader in his community. Maybe the reforms would actually stick this time. Maybe things could change. He knew it would not be easy. Change never was. There would be setbacks and resistance. Some officers would resent the new rules. Some community members would remain skeptical, having been disappointed too many times before. The work of building trust and ensuring equal treatment was ongoing, not a one-time fix. But for the first time in a long time, James felt hopeful. He jogged past Mrs. Thompson's house. She was in her garden tending to her roses. She looked up and waved. "Beautiful morning, Colonel." "It certainly is, Mrs. Thompson." He continued his run, feeling the sun on his face and the wind in his hair. The neighborhood felt different now. Not perfect, but better. People were talking to each other more. Neighbors who had never met before were now connected through their shared experience of standing up for what was right. At Fort Jackson, General Mitchell had called James into her office the week after the incident. He thought he might be in trouble for the publicity. Instead, she thanked him. "What you did was exactly what we expect from our officers," she told him. "You saw injustice and you did not look away. You used your voice without using your rank as a weapon. You represented the Army well, Colonel Park." She then told him the Army wanted to expand his community outreach program. They wanted to use it as a model for other bases around the country. James's work with at-risk youth had already made a difference, and now it would reach even more people. At home that evening, James sat at the dinner table with his wife and their 2 children, Minjun, who was 10, and Hana, who was 8. They were eating bulgogi and rice, one of their favorite meals. "Dad, kids at school are saying you are a hero," Minjun said. "Is that true?" James thought about how to answer. "I am not a hero. I just did what anyone should do. I saw someone being treated unfairly and I spoke up." "But not everyone does speak up," Sujin said gently. "That is what makes it special." "I want to be like you when I grow up," Hana said. "I want to help people." James felt tears prick at his eyes. You can help people in many ways, sweetheart. You do not have to be in the military or do what I did. You can help by being kind, by standing up for your friends when someone is mean to them, by speaking up when you see something wrong. Those are all ways of helping. Will things really change? Sujin asked when the children went to bed. Or will everyone forget about this in a few months? I do not know, James admitted. But I think this time is different. The community is organized now. The oversight board has real power. The chief seems genuinely committed, and people are paying attention. I hope you are right, she said. For Marcus's sake, for all the young people like him. Me too. 3 months later, the Civilian Oversight Board released its first quarterly report. It showed that complaints against officers were being investigated more thoroughly. Body camera footage was being reviewed regularly. Several officers had been disciplined for violations, not fired necessarily, but given suspensions or retraining. The report also showed something encouraging. Complaints from the community were actually increasing, but that was viewed as a positive sign. It meant people felt like their voices would be heard now, so they were more willing to report problems. The Oversight Board was building trust. Chief Martin kept his promise about transparency. He held quarterly town halls where he presented data on stops, arrests, use of force incidents, and complaint resolutions. He did not hide the department's failures. He acknowledged them openly and explained what was being done to address them. Was everything perfect? No, there were still incidents. Still officers who needed more training or more oversight. Still community members who did not trust the police and maybe never would. But there was progress. Real measurable progress. Marcus graduated from high school with honors. He was accepted to the College of Charleston with a full scholarship. He decided to major in criminal justice. When people asked him why, he said he wanted to be part of the solution. Officer Chen continued mentoring young officers. Some of them went on to become excellent community police officers. Others struggled with the new expectations and left the force. Chen knew that was okay. Not everyone was cut out for this work, and James continued his morning runs past the same intersection through the same neighborhood. Sometimes he ran alone. Sometimes his children joined him on their bikes. Sometimes neighbors waved and called out greetings. The neighborhood was not colorblind. It could not be and should not be. People still had different experiences based on their race and background. But there was something else now, too. There was recognition, respect, a sense that everyone deserved to be treated with dignity, regardless of what they looked like or where they came from. That was not everything. But it was a start. And sometimes, James thought as he finished his run and walked back to his house where his family waited, a start was enough to build on. Change was slow. Change was hard. But change was possible, and that possibility, that hope, made all the difference.